Today we talk about the current interim UFC lightweight champion, Justin the Highlight Gaethje. What people love about Justin is his action-packed and fan-friendly fighting style. His ability to deliver violent knockout finishes to high-caliber opponents makes Gaethje very entertaining to watch. Justin has become one of the most violent fighters in UFC history, due to his hard-hitting and technical fighting style. In this video, we wanted to recap Justin Gaethje's most violent knockout finishes to date. Before we get into it, please remember to smash that like button if you like the video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know whenever we have a new video coming out. Now, onto our list. Number 1. Tony Ferguson, UFC 249. Let's start with the most recent example. At UFC 249 in Jacksonville, Florida this past May, Gaethje fought Tony Ferguson on only a week's notice for the UFC interim lightweight title. Tony was a former interim champion himself and was on a 12-fight win streak coming into this championship bout with Justin. Tony was known for his fast-paced technical fighting style. Many favored him to defeat Gaethje. However, the fight transpired differently than most envisioned. Justin and Tony traded heavy punches and leg kicks throughout the first 2 rounds. Both men took some significant damage. Justin was dropped by a hook from Ferguson at the end of the second round. However, during the third round, Tony seemed to get more worn down from the hard punches and kicks of Gaethje. The swelling, blood, and exhaustion were visible on Ferguson's face. Plus, Tony had a hard time moving due to the accumulation of leg kicks absorbed. Justin continued to attack, smelling blood in the water. In the fourth round, Tony began to cave under the damage absorbed throughout the fight. Justin kept raining down punches and leg kicks, until the referee stopped the fight and awarded Justin the TKO victory midway through the 5th round. This was one of Justin's most infamous knockouts because it snapped Tony's 12-fight win streak and set Justin up for a title unification bout with Khabib Nurmagomedov. Number 2. Donald Cowboy Cerrone, UFC Fight Night. At a UFC Fight Night in September of 2019, Justin faced off against Donald Cowboy Cerrone in the main event. Donald was coming off a loss to Tony Ferguson only 3 months earlier. However, prior to that loss, Donald was on a 3-fight winning streak. Cerrone had defeated Al La Quinta, Alex Hernandez, and Mike Platinum Perry. Justin and Donald also trained together in the past. Justin even admitted that Donald knocked him out in practice several years earlier. So many thought this fight would be competitive. One thing people may have overlooked is that Donald is a notoriously slow starter. That means he takes his time to get set in fights. This, however, proved to be his undoing against Gaethje. Justin pressured from the opening bell with flurries of straight punches, hooks, and leg kicks. Donald did his best to react properly, but he was continuously caught with big strikes. Cowboy would be dropped twice in the first 3 minutes of the opening round. Justin kept kicking to the legs, which made it hard for Donald to move and kick back. Donald was clearly being picked apart. Donald was caught with a right hand and dropped for the final time. A series of follow-up punches sealed the knockout win for the Highlight. Number 3. Edson Barboza, UFC on ESPN. In March of 2019, Justin Gaethje met Edson Barboza in the main event of the UFC on ESPN 2 card. Edson Barboza was coming off a 3rd-round TKO of top lightweight contender Dan Hooker and re-established himself as a top fighter in the UFC. Justin, on the other hand, was coming off a victory over the then-ranked James Vick, who we will talk about in a second. Justin was looking to get a victory over an established UFC veteran and contender at the top of the division in Edson Barboza. A win for either one of these fighters gets them one step closer to a title shot. Both fighters brought that urgency to the fight, and it was action from start to finish. They started trading kicks and heavy punches right away. The first minute of the fight contained time and aggressive exchanges of strikes from both fighters. Both Justin and Barboza were clearly trying to take advantage of any openings when they presented themselves. Barboza would get rocked with a flurry of punches from Gaethje and begin to back up. Justin would swarm in trying to take Edson out. Edson would regroup and catch Justin with a knee to the head, and now Justin needs to regroup. They would quickly tie up in the clinch before separating and starting to trade heavy strikes again. Then as Barboza circles to his left, Gaethje catches him with a right hand that knocks Edson out cold, and the fight is over. In a flash, Justin adds another highlight reel knockout to his resume and establishes himself as a top lightweight contender. Number 4. James Vick. Let's go back a little earlier in Justin's UFC career to August of 2018. At the time, Gaethje was coming off 2 consecutive losses against former UFC lightweight champion Eddie Alvarez and future UFC interim lightweight champion Dustin Poirier. Justin needed a dominant win to re-establish himself at the top of the division. He was set to take on James Vick at UFC Fight Night 135 in the main event. James Vick had won 8 of his last 9 fights in the UFC and carried a record of 13 wins with 1 loss. Vick was seen as the next contender in the division, and many saw him as a serious threat to beat Gaethje. Needless to say, that was not meant to be. Justin came out very aggressive from the opening bell, stalking and putting pressure on James by throwing big punches to the body. Vick tried to use his length to strike from a distance, but Gaethje had no trouble closing the distance. James would find himself moving backwards with his back against the cage early in the fight. Justin would take full advantage of these moments and unload with strikes when Vick was up against the cage. In one of these barrages, Justin landed an overhead right hand square on the chin of James and knocked him out cold. That was all she wrote for James Vick. Another beautiful knockout win for Justin Gaethje. Number 5. Michael Johnson. Justin made his UFC debut against the then-ranked lightweight contender Michael Johnson at the Ultimate Fighter season finale in July of 2017. Michael is a talented and athletic striker, with wins over former champions in Tony Ferguson and Dustin Poirier. Johnson was coming off a loss to Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov and looked to get back on track with an impressive win over Gaethje. Justin was coming from the World Series of Fighting, where he held and defended their lightweight championship 5 consecutive times. Gaethje was one of the best fighters who had not set foot in the UFC. Now was his chance to show the world that he belonged amongst the top of the UFC's best lightweights. Many expected the fight to be action-packed, and it lived up to the expectations. This fight was a back-and-forth brawl that had most viewers on the edge of their seats. Both Michael and Justin traded kicks, knees, and punches. Mike would eat a knee to the head and get hurt badly in the opening minutes, only to return with combinations of his own and hurt Justin badly with a right hand near the end of the first round. Justin would hold on and make it to the bell, which capped off one of the most insane rounds in UFC history. The second round was as crazy as the first. Both fighters were exhausted, but Michael hurt Justin again with punches. However, Gaethje proved to be the tougher of the two as he continued to press forward and throw heavy strikes. These strikes are hurting Michael badly and sent him retreating toward the fence. A flying knee and a series of uppercuts from Gaethje sent Michael crumbling to the canvas, and the fight was mercifully waved off by Big John McCarthy. This knockout win was the type Justin needed to kick off his career in the UFC. Alright guys, what did you think of this list? Are there any great knockouts from Justin that you think I left off the list? Who do you think Justin should fight next? Let me know in the comments. Please remember to smash the like button if you enjoyed the video. It helps me out a ton. Also subscribe and hit the notification bell to get informed every time we drop a new video. I appreciate you guys watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next video.